this was a big problem.
What now?
Hello, welcome back. Okay, so you want to learn a new language, but you're not in that country, or maybe you don't know people that speak it. What do? So in the past, obviously this was a big problem. Technology sort of made that a bit better. Obviously it's made it a lot better. There's so many different languages that we can learn thanks to AI, different apps, for example, that will like you in contact with people, so you can like chat with native speakers. But I'm sort of thinking of taking things in a bit of a different direction, right? So for a bit of a background, I speak French. I speak Spanish decently. I'm still learning. But I'm really passionate about languages. I think they're awesome. Great way to communicate with people. And it's always good to choose something that you're passionate about. Obviously, especially when it comes to languages, because a lot of people don't know, especially if you want to get to like a fluent level, you know, when you're really capable of communicating, it takes a lot of time. Where am I going with this? Consistency. Super important. You need to do it as often as possible. And it needs to be centered around something that you're interested in, something that makes you happy, something that you enjoy doing. But the most recent advancement of AI in these past few years is something that I found to be super beneficial. And now you can sort of create your own virtual world within this language, and that can help you simulate it, obviously not completely, but as best to its ability. So let's take an example of ChatGPT. Right, so before in the past, I was walking around the house like a crazy person. I was talking to myself. When I was talking to people, I was narrating in my head. I was translating what they were saying, making tons of mistakes, obviously. Now, with ChatGPT, you can have a conversation. You can have a conversation in that language. You can converse about a number of different subjects. You can specify that, obviously, with the newer versions, at the current time of this recording, the latest one is GPT-4. You can ask it, okay, hey, look, when I make a mistake, correct me. This is what I would like you to do. This is how I'd like the form of my corrections. We can now sort of design our own custom tutor that never fatigues. So it's all-knowing. Important point to recognize is obviously that even though AI is powerful, seemingly all-knowing, still capable of mistakes. So an example I'll use there for anyone that's been learning languages, specifically European and Asian languages, DeepL, right? So DeepL is, in my opinion, the best translator in the world. It's really accurate. They've been around for quite a while, really popular with journals, because when they translate text, they don't just take it word for word, but they really focus on the context. So let's take an example of a verb in French. So anyone who's learned French or who's thinking of it will know the verb faire, to do. Now, there's another verb, se faire, a reflexive version, right? And you might think, okay, where are you going with this? Well, the second one has a really different meaning. The implication of it is something that happens to you that you didn't know about, had no control over, or might not have wanted. So now when translating something, that's a really big deal. Google Translate is great for translations. It really just translates it like any sentence you put in, you get out. Okay, where are you going with this, Daniel? Well, when you're learning in the beginning, you want to know not just words, but what are the right words to use. So in that case, DeepL, really excellent example. Right, back to ChatGPT or any AI or any sort of tool that you're using, whatever it may be. I find you just have conversations with it. So we can have voice conversations. We're chatting like this. We're having a conversation. And then we say, okay, let's switch it up. So then you ask ChatGPT to send you questions via text. And then you respond audibly. You can mix it up. My point is we can create combo exercises out of what we're doing. So that's sort of the point today, is not just how to learn it if you're in a different country, but even if you're in that country, the material that you have available to you, how can you best take advantage of it? What can we really do to get the most out of it? So let's take an example of that. We're speaking. You're talking to ChatGPT. You say, okay, let's speak about a specific subject. Each day of the week, one will be sports, economy, science, language, arts, whatever. Each day you talk about something different. You can stop the conversation halfway and say, okay, send me these in text. Type them out. What I'm going to do to you is respond audibly. So we can sort of mix up the medium that we're using. We're not just saying, okay, the first one would be in a conversation, ChatGPT is speaking, so we need to practice listening. The second one would be writing and speaking. So I've always come at this with, okay, let's do the most we can in the least amount of time. Let's really be efficient with this. It's hard and it's difficult because, well, initially it's really challenging and you feel sort of overwhelmed. You know, like most words you don't understand. You're reading and every second word you're translating and you're like, is this ever going to get better? Yes, I promise it will. What it feels like for anyone who's listening to this, who's a beginner or who's not sure, you feel like you're pushing against a wall for the longest time and that wall's not moving. And then suddenly there's no wall or it's further in the distance and I got some room again. So if you're wondering, should I keep going? Yeah, keep going. I promise you it is worth it. It unlocks a whole new world. So many tens of thousands, most likely millions if you're learning one of the major languages, more people that you'll now be able to communicate with. It's really cool. Now, this next little tip is something that I've been doing forever, and it's recently been revealed that, well, it's sort of beneficial, rarely beneficial, reading, but reading out loud. So the idea there will be that you're not just reading and practicing the words, but at the same time, you're practicing what they would sound like. So you're practicing forming and hearing them, which would then make you more likely to be able to better understand them in a conversation. It also helps you to be able to better pronounce them. If it's not your first language or it's a language you've learned later in life, you're most likely behind in pronunciation. And having that extra practice in your own time, the comfort of your home where you can make mistakes without anyone judging you is really useful. This podcast initially started as me talking about, okay, we're going to talk about learning a language if you're not in the country. That was just all tips that I can think of, which I have a few because I really love languages. It's part of my daily activity. Going back to reading, daily reading, articles, physical newspapers, books, something on the Kindle, whatever it is. Read a lot. It is the best way to come across new words. If you're finding so often that you don't know things, great. Go in the direction of the unknown. That's where you need to be going. If you don't know how to do something, that's exactly what you're finding out in a safe environment before you get into a conversation. Find those verbs. Learn their infinitive, the base form. Learn how to practice them. If you find the word you are, try conjugating it for all the different subjects. Try changing the tenses, putting in the negative. Really play around with it. Again, that's why I sort of emphasized at the beginning of the importance of really liking it. Because if you hate a language or if it's something you're learning at school or high school, university, wherever it may be, it's going to be such a task. So get creative with it. And I think it's really important because we can sort of get bogged down when learning. It's so difficult. There's so much to do. Just think of the advantages. Think of all the people you can communicate with now. Now maybe double or potentially even triple that, depending on the language you're speaking. If English, probably a bit less, but many millions of people will now be able to communicate with you. Also, the really cool part about it is not just the language, but the culture, right? Each language sort of has its own world that from the outside might seem, well, really similar. Don't be scared, or if you are, that's great. I had a motto that I adopted from the beginning: get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Language learning is hard, but like a lot of difficult things, if you stick with it, have some faith in yourself because you can do it. In the end, it will be worth it. Okay, well, writing. Yep, writing. Really, really important. To chain on to what we're just saying about reading. So, a great combo exercise, what you could do. Read something, a small article, a few lines in a book, whatever it may be. Stop. Make sure you understand everything in what you just read. Take a small paragraph, for example, especially in the beginning. Then write about it. Play with it. If you just read about a red fire truck driving on the street, write in your own language that you just saw a red fire truck. Say what colors it isn't. Say what colors it is. Really practice. What writing does is it forces you to sort of not bullshit your way through what you're doing and make sure that you really damn well understand what you just read. It's a great exercise to what reading is, and reinforcement learning, especially soon after or consecutively after doing something like learning a new word, is really important in order to be able to remember it again, which is super important if it's not your native language, because in that case, the connections that you need to form in your brain, those pathways, are hard to come by, and you've got to hammer them in there. They will fade away if you don't put in the work, but you can. Okay. And then finally, you're scared. You're nervous, you're not sure about it, that's okay. What most people will find in most languages is that people are really chill. People want you to speak to them. They're not really worried about whether you're making mistakes. That's normally on your half, right? They're just there like, super cool. This new person made an effort to come speak to me, and they're trying to speak, and maybe they don't know English. So perhaps this could be a sort of meeting point between the two where you could help bridge the gap, learn more about this language that you're interested in, help them, and it's a win-win for everyone. Okay, well, I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing my voice, but in case you're not, there will be another episode next week. So subscribe, share this, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.